Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Up Speakeasy. I'm your host, Sareth, and every episode I bring in a stand up comic and invite him to my stand up speakeasy, which is um, a secret group, if you will. But we're underground at the moment, but starting in January, I'll release all the episodes. But um, for quarantine purposes, I was planning on touring the Central Time Zone, uh, but since COVID hit, I wasn't able to. But this is a great way to interview my fellow comics, and instead of spending 10 to 20 minutes with them, I spend much longer and deep dive into their careers. So my guest tonight is a stand-up comedian, a producer, a writer, actress, mother, and a great party guest. Ladies and gentlemen, Colleen Brennan. Hey, Colleen, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for joining me on the show this evening.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome, awesome. I was checking out your website and looking through all the show dates, but the COVID ruined for all of us, and but it's okay. We're gonna rebound, and everything will be just fine and safe. I hope.
That's the plan. That's my plan. So what you said, I'm in.
Indeed. And this evening, we're raising funds for RAI, CES, and Lakeview Pantry, and their website is below. And also follow Colleen on Instagram and visit her website and subscribe to her YouTube channel. There's also scrolling uh, below there on the ticker and in the description box below. So, Colleen, you're a stand-up comic based out of Chicago. Are you born and raised in Chicago, or what made you move there?
I was born and raised in Northwest Indiana, just outside of Chicago, Michigan City, Indiana, and I grew up there and lived all around the state of Indiana. And I wanted to cross that border for a long time, and I finally made it at the age of 25, and I've been here ever since.
Awesome. And you're a writer as well. And what have you written and all that good stuff?
Right now, I'm writing for a show called Wisecrackin'. It's on. You can go to wisecrackin.com. It's Quiplash, but it's with comedians, and we're basically setting up punchlines with the quips, and we've got great intermission games and uh, audience challenges and monologue jokes and stuff like that. So it's been a blast. But yeah, I write the comedic videos that I produce. And I write my stand up, and I've had a feature in Hose magazine. So yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And if I may have you send me the link, and I'll put it in the description box below, so that way they can check out your written works on.
Sure. For
Awesome.
Wisecrack.
Yep, for
Yeah.
Wisecrack.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, fantastic. And also, you're the producer of Waves of Laughter, Momedians of Momedy, and Backroom Comedy at Alive One.
Yep.
What got you into the producing role?
Well, so I'm looking always to create opportunities, because when you're a woman my age, there are fewer opportunities in comedy. So you gotta make your own opportunities. So I realized that pretty early on when I started stand up, and that drove me to figure out where the gaps were, what audiences needed to be reached, and how to put together shows that were diverse for age, race, gender, LGBTQ, and create something in a lot of different formats that was going to work across a lot of different audiences. So that's what drove me to produce.
Awesome. And you're an actress as well. And which productions have you acted in?
Nothing for a very long time, but I studied at the conservatory program at Second City. Um, I've done a few small regional commercials, and acting in our own produced videos. Um, yeah, so a lot of improv early on. And I am currently represented by Lori Lynn's LLC.
Awesome, fantastic. And so you mentioned that you graduated from the conservatory program and or conservatory program at the Second City. What were those years like?
They were pretty crazy. They were a lot of fun. I was so I started. uh, I did music and theater when I was in college and high school and all that stuff. And I knew that I wanted to get back to it. So um, when I got everything figured out professionally and my day job all squared away, I decided to go back to do acting, and improv is something that I'd never done that I always wanted to try. So I started, and then you sort of audition at different levels to get into different levels of the conservatory program, and I kept making it through, which was great. It's what I wanted to do, but I was pregnant halfway through the program, and so I was pregnant for the last half of the program and had a newborn baby. So my experience was a lot different than what other people had, because I was very large and pregnant, and then I had a very needy newborn. So it was fun, it was exciting, I loved it, but I was exhausted, and I worked really hard to do everything I could to get through it.
Indeed, and the Second City offered training as a stand-up comedy, as well as you also studied stand-up comedy at the Feminine Comique, if I
Yeah,
believe that's
yeah,
correct.
yeah. So yeah, the Lincoln Lodge here in Chicago, which is sort of an institution for stand-up showcases, they offer a lot of classes. They had FemCom that was just specifically for women, and then Second City had classes specifically for stand-up, not improv or writing. They got a lot of classes.
Most definitely, indeed. And so you're described that you're as a polished performer, and your comedy is described as unique observational angle as a married, visibly stable mother highlights the hilarious details about life as a human, which I find great because like my comedy is observational too. So I'm glad. Where do you pull all your inspirations from? Like I've seen a little bit of your material online, but where else have you pulled your inspirations from?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know. I usually the shower. Like if I if I'm in the shower and something strikes me as odd or funny, I write it down. I don't know why the shower, but for some reason I get all sources of comedy inspiration in the shower. I get lots of inspiration from watching other comedians because it reminds me not of the things that they're saying, but um, what bothers me or doesn't bother me, or an emotion that I have. And if I'm watching another comedian, sometimes it'll jigger something in my brain about my personal life. Um, yeah. So my kids are, but they're not. I don't spend a lot of time talking about my kids or my family. I do spend some time, but I've tried to stay away while they're young from using them too often. But as they're getting older, it's getting a little easier. So yeah, so that's it.
Indeed, I get inspired by my fellow comics too, so I can totally relate. And
Yeah.
uh, they're some pretty neat comics here in Florida, and the ones in Chicago are pretty neat too. So
Yeah.
yep. And you've performed all over clubs and shows all over the Midwest.
Mhm.
What are some of your favorites that stand out the most?
What are my favorite? I'm sorry, say that again.
Clubs and shows that in the Midwest that you performed at.
Um, so there's a producing pair who run a series of shows under the name of the Tomfoolery Fun Club, and they produce most of their shows. I think they're all in Indiana, in Northwest Indiana, and they consistently pack the house, and I love performing for them. They have enormous respect for comedians. Um, they set up a great show. They always book a great show, and it's amazing because I've performed like at a huge fundraising event for them. I've performed at a pizza place where the place was sold out, and I've performed to an auditorium of 350 people. They're wonderful. They run great shows. So Tom Bialik and Michelle Piskel are Tomfoolery Fun Club, and they're great. And then I've always loved, um, I do love the Laugh Factory. That's just a wonderful, fun place to be, with just a great stage and a fabulous energy. And can I say my shows? Am I allowed to?
Absolutely, it's
I love
humble brag.
performing my shows.
Yeah,
with my co-producers. It's wonderful.
indeed. And which shows are those?
So right before the pandemic hit, both the Momedians of Momedy and Backroom Comedy at Alive One were two shows that we had a lot of stuff booked forward. The Momedians of Momedy is a, women who are moms, but also stand-ups, and it's not mom comedy. It's just comedy. It's just that every stand-up on stage just happens to be a mother or a grandmother. And it's a lot of fun. I have a great time doing those. Those are one-off shows. We'll do them at theaters or, in different locales. My backroom comedy show that I co-produce with three other women. Can I give a shout out?
Yep, absolutely.
Jessica Besser Rosenberg, Lauren Hooverman, and Courtney Buckwalter. The four of us produce this show. It's in the back room of a bar called Alive One, which is a musical venue, but the stage lends itself really well to like this cool comedy club atmosphere. And it was a once a month show that we'd done for about 2 years. We were coming up on our 2-year anniversary when COVID hit, and we packed the house, and it's a blast. We have a diverse lineup of genders and races and ages and LGBTQ, and it's a great show. So
Indeed. I'm glad you reminded me of your shows and all the cool things that happen at them too. So thank you for going into detail for sure.
yeah.
Indeed. And speaking of, you mentioned theaters earlier, and what memories of do you have of the little theater at St. Mary's College?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I went to St. Mary's College as an undergrad. It's an all women's Catholic college. It was the sister school to Notre Dame, to University of Notre Dame. And then Notre Dame went co-ed, and St. Mary's stayed just straight up women. But there was, so when I was at St. Mary's, I used to sing in the women's choir, and we used to perform in the little theater all the time. So fast forward to a few years ago, one of my fellow comedians, who's also a friend, I found out, she's several years younger than me, that she also went to St. Mary's. And so we were both like, what if we produced a show at St. Mary's? We were like, yeah, let's do it. So I was like, well, who knows if they want us? But we both had enough production creds under our belt that I felt like we could do a really good job. So I contacted the college and spoke with the events director, and he was lovely. And he's like, that sounds great. We haven't had stand up here in a while. So they opened the little theater for us, and we did a great stand up show in a big, beautiful theater with a fabulous audience. And that was a lot of fun.
Indeed. And how about the Acorn Theater? What are some memories from there?
So the Acorn Theater is a really cool place. All right. So it's in this little town in Michigan called Three Oaks, Michigan. And it's a venue where they've got everything. They've got music, they've got comedy, they've got just like anything, just like a huge variety theater, but it's all nonprofit. And so the funds just go to continue to enrich the community. They seat like 225. And I produced one show there. And I performed in the Kates there, which is another great show in Chicago, when they had it there. And we had just sold out audiences. People were amazing. Such like people who show up wanting to laugh, and it's what a vibe that is, like everybody just wants, like you just feel all this goodwill, and they want you to do well, and they want to have a good night. And it's a great place. They do a great job. So love the Acorn Theater in Three Oaks, Michigan.
Indeed. And when I went to Chicago, this is the theater that I performed in. It was the Annoyance Theater. And what are
Yeah.
some of your favorite memories from the Annoyance Theater?
Oh, well, okay. So Lily Allison has this. Did you do Lily's show?
Yep, that's the
Yeah.
one.
Oh, she's so fabulous. I love her. So she does this great weekly stand-up show, right? And every time I've hosted it a few times for her, guest hosted. And I've done it a lot because I've been doing this for a while. But it's just, they always have an audience. I mean, there's always, like, it's a very small room, right?
Hmm.
And when I walked in the very first time, I was like, is this gonna work? And then they open the doors and people just come flooding in, and it's, you never know what kind of audience you're gonna get. I have had like audiences of like all college students. I've had like older couples. It's just, so it's, I feel like that's a great place to keep you on your toes, because you just get this huge cross section of all types of audiences. And then one time I did, in the big, they have a bigger theater right next door to that, and so I did a show there one night, and that was, same thing, great audience and fun stage, and it's just that's a fun vibe of a place, the Annoyance.
Indeed. It's like when I went there, it was like standing room only. I'm like, is this every single time? This is nuts. This is great.
It is, and they have such a, the improv theaters in Chicago have such great reputations that they draw tourists from all over the place, right? So Second City and IO isn't a thing anymore, Improv Olympic, because they shut down due to COVID stuff, and hopefully Annoyance is still going to keep going. But yeah, and it's nice to have theaters like that where they're open to all comedy, right? Because we can do improv there, we can do stand up there. Yeah, it's just, Chicago's a great place.
Indeed. I'm so looking forward to going back. I should go. I'm going back in May and August too, so that should be fun.
Yay!
Hopefully after COVID goes away. But you
Better.
mentioned indeed, most definitely. November, don't go. It was pretty crazy cold. So, um, earlier we talked about the Second City, and you performed at Laughing Matters at the Second City. What stories do you have from that show?
That's just a really cool show. So the woman who produces that show, her name is Valerie Jenks, and oh gosh, now I can't remember. I'm gonna try to. I think Laughing Matters is the actual name of the organization. Prescription Comedy was the name of the show, and I did it twice. I think Val was in her third year this year doing it. It's a show that creates a safe, sober space, for people in recovery, or just a alcohol, drug-free show. That's, like I said, sort of a safe space. So the comedians who perform are all performing, um, clean comedy to a great group of people, and they're raising money for, mental health services. And it's just, it's supposed to be medicine of laughter, right? So laughter is the best medicine, kind of thing. So yeah.
Indeed. I wish that was my kind of crowd. I'm straight edge, but my material is just dirty as all get out. So I can't. I tell my buddies I can do 35 minutes strong, but the 5 minutes is just the 30 minutes is dirty, but I got 5 minutes of clean material. Indeed.
I could, I think it's nice when you can take material and you can tailor it. So I've got a lot of material that I can make clean, or I can make dirty. It just depends on the audience. You just switch out a few words, you add a few different ones, and yeah.
Indeed. My buddies in Daytona say you're the cleanest, dirtiest comic we've ever met. You just say dirty things, but you don't say any curse words. I don't know how you do it. It's just wild. So,
It's a, you tell them it's a gift.
it's a gift for sure. Indeed. And you've also performed at the Foundation Room at the House of Blues. What were those days like?
Oh, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot. That was a really fun show. I've only performed there once. It's a packed, beautiful lounge room where they've got stand up set up at one side, and again, these are such great theaters because you get just this enormous cross section of people, because it's a big tourist town, and House of Blues is a big place where tourists love to go, and so you get great audiences. And the night there's this amazing comedian named Big Keith, and he, I think I was riffing or doing crowd work or something, and and I'd never done it before. But at the end of the show, and by the way, he closed the show, did like a half an hour where I swear he got a laugh every 5 seconds for 30 minutes. I mean, the place was, it was exhausting leaving there because your like stomach hurt so bad from laughing, right? So after the show, this guy is so generous and so lovely. He pulls me aside and I was like, oh my gosh, I loved your stuff. It was amazing. He's like, you were great too. And he gave me tags for my jokes. Um, Great ideas for how to make it better. And everything that he said, I used exactly the way he recommended I tailor it, and everything works. I mean, that was a really great night. That was a fun night. Yeah.
Awesome. I've only been to one House of Blues, and that was in on the Sunset Strip in LA when I was during my concert journalism days out there, and it's so beautiful, like the
It,
inside and out, you know.
yeah. It feels like, doesn't it feel luxurious to be? I mean, like, I don't know. It almost royal practice. I mean, for comedians, like we think royal is a bowl of M&Ms, like being for free, like with a beer. But like this felt like, wow.
Indeed, most definitely. They tore down the venue though, and they put
Oh,
condominiums up. I'm like, oh, geez, so much history at that building.
right.
Yep,
Aw.
indeed. And one of the couple there's two venues, Zanies in Chicago. I know that I know of. What was it like performing at the Zany stage?
Well, so it's funny. Both of the Zanies are really different. So the Zanies in Old Town, which is downtown, is this sort of narrow, cavernous club, and it's a very tight space uh, with a pretty tight stage. That's sort of raised up against the back wall, and it's it's a it's an intimidating and wonderful place to perform. So I performed there for a festival, and then I also performed in several shows. They used to have a Monday night show called Female Funnies, where it was just a straight lineup of female performers, and those were it was such a great, wonderful thing to be a part of. Whenever you were on that show, it was great. But so it's sort of it's a very downtown vibe. It reminds me of like a New York underground comedy club. You know, when you see like Louis C.K. I hate even when you see like Louis C.K. or anybody going down underground. It's not underground, but it kind of feels like it is. So Zany's downtown, fabulous. Zany's at Rosemont um, has this bigger stage, and it's like this uh, half circle theater, which is like big, really big. So I've never performed there when it's been completely full. I can't, I mean, I'm trying to figure out, like, probably, I would guess it seats 200 or more, maybe, maybe 200, maybe 150. Anyway, but the inner ring right around the stage is always packed for the shows that I've performed in there. Um, and again, it's people come to Zanies and Rosemont, like a lot of like convention people and families who are staying out by O'Hare and visiting the city. So that's a great club too. They're just totally different vibes.
Indeed, most definitely. And on your site, I see that you've made two festival appearances. The first one of them was Lady Laughs Festival in Madison, Wisconsin. What are some fond memories from that festival?
So Lady Laughs is run by a woman named Nina Martinez, and she created the festival to give female voices, an opportunity to be heard. It's a weekend in Madison, which is a really fun town. I did it 2 years, um, and it's in so many different venues. I was in two different venues for each year that I was there. And the showcases, as she has them set up, are like hour-long showcases, and she runs it like clockwork. Like one's off, one's up next, and there's usually in our show, I think we had 3 performers in that hour period of time. So you get to breathe into your set a little bit more than you would in some other showcase type things. So that was both years were really fun. Um, with really good female comedians who are coming from all over. And then yeah, so that's Lady Laughs.
Awesome. And you were the winner of Audience Favorite at Snupfest 2016. What are some memories from there besides winning Audience Favorite?
Oh, I was
And what was it feeling like when you won?
I was so scared. I was like, that was I mean, it was the best mountain to climb. How about that? Like it because that's so cheesy. That was the cheesiest thing I could have said. How dorky. My kids would be like, Mom. But it was because like you get into the festival, they didn't their stand-up portion was like a 2-hour show, and everybody got, I think, 6 minutes, and there were like maybe 12 of us performing against each other, and we were competing, and Lincoln Lodge, Laugh Factory, and Zanies had 3 representatives judging, and Tim Kazurinsky was one of the judges too. He was a Saturday Night Live guy back in the 80s, and he's a lovely guy. But anyway, and so it was just, it's one thing, and you probably know this too, right? To be on stage performing stand-up. It's super vulnerable. You never know how it's going to go. Sometimes you bomb. Sometimes you like have the best night of your life. So most of the time it's somewhere right in between. But it's you, and you get down off stage and you're like, oh. But when you're competing against other people, like you just, I don't know. That was hard and wonderful all at the same time. So, and everybody was so good. Everybody was just dynamite.
Indeed. And you've appeared on TV on shows on WGN's Pretty Late with Patty Vasquez and WCIU's The Jam. What was it like being guests on those shows?
So Patty's show was on WGN. It was a radio show. So we were, and it was pretty late. Let me tell you. I mean, that pretty late. It was late. I don't know how Patty did it for all those years, but she was on until I think from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. And we were the last hour that night. So it was like a 12 to 1 kind of thing. And I don't think I got home until like 2 or 2:30, which doesn't seem like a big deal when you don't have 2 kids who have to get up for school the next morning. So, so it was exhausting and wonderful, but really fun. And she is such a pro, and she made it so easy to be a guest. And I was with my Momedy and of Momedy co-producers, and it was just having a great conversation, being hooked up to a mic and headphones, right? So, and she was just, Patty's a great host, and she's very good at drawing out interesting information from all of her guests. That was a lot of fun. And then the Jam was this mom therapy segment, which was a blast, and very early in the morning. So, and they were real martinis in those glasses. I think it was 7 a.m. and that was like straight up booze in the glasses they gave us to drink. And we each took a sip, and I don't think any of us thought that it was real. We all thought it was like cranberry juice or something, but no, it was a martini.
Indeed. That's pretty wild, especially for early morning. It's like, goodness gracious.
For morning TV, I mean, I love, don't get me wrong. It was a very pleasant experience. It was just it was a surprise. So that's what I remember most about that experience.
Indeed. And if I was to go on tour, I was going to ask you these next questions. So, but COVID hit. But so with that said, we'll go into those questions. So, what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy?
So as I had said earlier, I was acting and doing improv, and I was pregnant, and I had to take a break, and then I got back into it and worked with an agency and did some auditioning for a little while, and then found out shortly after I signed with that agency that I was pregnant with my second. And so I had to take more time away because I work full time during the day too. And acting, I couldn't do you know, I couldn't commit to like an 8-week show every night, you know, with kids at home. So when I was like in my early 40s, I started to lose my mind. And I was like, how am I going to get back on stage? And somebody told me years ago when I was at Second City during the conservatory program, I can't even remember who the guy was, but he was like, if you're going to be a real comedian, you got to do stand up. And I was like, all right, dude, slow your roll there. Because I think you can be a funny person without doing stand up. Because stand up just scared the hell out of me. And so as I was desperate in my like 41, 42, and I mean like desperate to get like, I'm like, kids, I gotta get back on stage. I realized that he was right, and the only way I could control what I was doing, my time, how I allocate my time for family, for work, for performing, is to do stand up. So I obsessively took like 3 classes in a row just to make sure that I had enough material to get on stage, that I knew how to construct a stand-up joke versus writing a sketch, you know, and doing that through improv. And once I got everything under my belt, then I went out and did what we all do, which is you go to mics, you meet people, you network, you try to get on shows, you submit clips, blah blah blah. But it's been I've been doing it now for 7.5 years, and it's been awesome. Like, I mean, there have been lows and highs, and I wouldn't have traded any of it for anything. I'm so glad that I took this path.
Indeed. And what was it feeling like when you first performed stand up?
Well, I mean, it was like, you know, like I was gonna vomit, like, and have diarrhea all on stage at the same time. Like my biggest fear was I was gonna have diarrhea and vomit at the same time while I was trying to remember my set. So that's what it was like the first time, right? So
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. You probably don't feel that way because you're like young and haven't flopped as many times, but like it's terrifying. Uh, but it was, you know, it was terrifying. But again, when you finish, the adrenaline rush is huge, and so that's what gets you coming back, right? Is that like when they laugh, there's nothing better.
I agree. I agree. And what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
um, Comedy specials, really anything by Kathleen Madigan, um, and Maria Bamford. I'm a huge John Mulaney fan. He went to high school with my cousins. Um, uh, I love Jim Gaffigan. Anything that he does, I think, has been really funny. He grew up like, no joke, like 15 minutes away from my hometown. Um, so let me think who else. Tig Notaro, the very last stand up that she did after she showed like her breast cancer scars and performed the second half of her set topless was amazing. So that I don't remember the name of that one. But oh gosh, did I love that. Trying to think. Oh God, Dave Chappelle. Holy crap. I mean, he's just I could watch anything he does. He could read coupons and I would laugh and love everything he does. He's just so great. Um yeah. I really, you know what I do enjoy though? I don't know if anybody said this. I really like comedians in cars because you everybody's so different. And like from a nerd standpoint, like writing comedy, I'll sit there with my kids and I'll be like, see, that's how somebody else does it. And like listen to what they're saying and listen to how they get inspired. And then somebody else will come on and I'll be like, see, there's a nook for them too. There's space for everybody at the table. So that's just, I mean, it's not like a stand-up thing per se, but just to like get into the mind of different comedians that I've always admired, that's pretty cool.
Indeed. That's why I love doing these. It's like I get to talk to comedians and find out their process and all that good stuff. So,
Yeah.
And a couple of those comics, or a lot of those comics, have been on TV and film. And I want to know what your favorite sitcom, sketch shows, and comedy films are.
Sitcom sketches and comedy films. The More Cowbell sketch from Saturday Night Live might be my favorite Saturday Night Live sketch of all time. I still cry whenever I watch it. I also loved Lazy Sunday with Adam, or oh my God, oh, I can't remember. Ah, this is what happens when you hit my age. Your brain just loses things. Andy Sandberg and Chris, I can't remember who the other guy was. Lazy Sunday was so much fun. It was so freaking funny. Dick in a Box is really good too for sketch. Oh, and the Tina Fey Amy Poehler one about the menstrual patch where you don't wear it for you have like the worst period for a week where that's freaking hilarious too. So those are all great for sketches. And then sitcoms. I mean, I think WKRP in Cincinnati was one of the best sitcoms that was ever on television. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I don't even know if you've heard of it. I don't know if anybody's heard of it because it was out when I was a little kid. Those were brilliant. The Thanksgiving episode from WKRP in Cincinnati. If you've never watched it, you have to Google it. It's just brilliant. Fleabag on Amazon I don't think that counts as a sitcom, but I think that's one of the most brilliant comedic productions I've seen on television in ages. Sitcoms. I mean, I loved Cheers. I loved I think the jokes were fun. It's funny, I watched Cheers with my kids. And I mean, generationally, it doesn't always hold up because there were some things where they were like, "Mom," and I was like, that is problematic now. But as a work, it's a pretty amazing show. I don't watch many sitcoms. I'm like realizing I don't watch many sitcoms right now. No, but WKRP in Cincinnati, MASH was wonderful, so funny. Oh, I loved 30 Rock. That was the other one I really loved.
Indeed, in comedy films.
Good question. Bridesmaids always makes me cry. Spy with Melissa McCarthy, I think might be. I mean, I have watched that movie probably 40 times. Every time I watch it, I laugh. Really, anything with Melissa McCarthy in it is one of my favorite comedy films of all time. But Spy, I think, is probably head and shoulders above anything else that she's done. So.
Indeed, and Chris Parnell was the other guy
Yeah,
from.
yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh, and he's such a good character actor. He's in like everything. He
indeed,
pops up all over the place.
most definitely. If you can go on tour with any comedian, locally and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
Oh wow. If Jim Gaffigan would just take me on tour with him, I think we could have this whole like who's your dude, who's your woman kind of thing going like a dad and a mom. So if you know if anybody out there, look, if anybody out there knows Jim Gaffigan, please send him my links. I mean, girls got to try. So yeah, I would love to be anywhere with him. I'll go back to Kathleen Madigan. I would go on tour with her. Gosh, she's just fantastic. I love her.
Indeed.
Yeah, so those are two.
And local comic?
Okay, I can't. There's no way to just do one. I
Okay.
mean, I can't, I mean, I couldn't possibly narrow it down to one. Give me a category and I'll give you a comedian. What kind of local type of thing do you want me to?
We'll pick two. One guy, one girl. I know it's a tough one.
I can't. Okay. So how about this? I'm just gonna name. I've never been good at like listing like my favorite. I'm better at my top 10. So I will just throw out names for each male, female. Okay. So for male in Chicago, Vince Carone, Jim Flanagan, Vic Pandya, Tyler Fowler. Mickey Housley used to be here, but I think he's in New York now. Who else? Scott Duff is hilarious. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting so many really wonderful people. Oh, Lucky Luciani, Manny Acosta. Yeah, so there's some guys. They're all great. And by the way, there's like a ton more because Chicago is bursting with talent. And then for women, Kelsey Huff, Amy Sumpter, Jan Slavin, Patty Vasquez, my co-producers, Jess, Lauren, and Courtney, and Kat Herskovic, and so many more. Sonal Agarwal, so many. This comedy community in Chicago is, I do not know why Hollywood isn't here plucking people constantly. It makes no sense to me.
Indeed. We opened a can of worms for sure. So indeed, good stuff. I can't wait to meet all those fine folks. And let's see here. If you can get roasted by 5 comedians, past and present, which comedians would you like to get roasted by?
Ooh. Joan Rivers, Jeff Ross, Whitney Cummings, just because I think they do it so well. I don't know. Sarah Silverman, I think, would be fun. I'm trying to throw in another dude, but I'm struggling. Can we do 4? Can we do 4 plus my kids? Can they roast me? All right. We'll make them the 5th comedian.
Awesome. That works for me. And you've done sketch and improv, I believe, and you've done acting. Which of the forms of comedy would you like to venture off into? Like directing and etc. Writing.
Say that again. Question. I'm sorry for.
Which other forms of comedy would you like to venture off into, like comedy writing and acting, directing, etc.? Or you've done acting?
I've done acting. I've never directed, so I would like to direct. That would be really fun. Yeah, but I have to say, there's something wonderful about sort of being Geppetto and producing, and getting to pull all the strings and make everything kind of work together in the world of that production. I mean, I think I've tried. Honestly, I think I've tried most of what I've wanted to do. Now I just want international success.
Indeed.
That's what I want to try. I want to try being an international diva, a comedy. I want to be the Oprah of comedy. That's what I want. That's my next job.
Awesome. That would be my next question. Well, where do you see your comedy career in the next 5 years? So I think you answered that. So.
I'm going to be Oprah of comedy. I'm going to set up production here in Chicago. We're going to you come on out here, and when you move to Chicago, we'll take care of you. We'll get you writing. We'll get you on the show. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
I'll get a car too.
Thank you. Oh,
hey, you get a car. You get a car.
We
all get cars.
Abundant generosity, obviously, because I will be in the financial position to give all these things away.
Indeed, and we'll have Tom Cruise jump on couches and everything. And
sure, he can jump on a table. He might make it to a ceiling fan. Actually, it would be even better if he did it while it was running.
Indeed, most definitely. And what is your favorite joke a comic has ever written?
My favorite joke a comic has ever written. Oh my gosh. Okay, I can tell you one local comedian who has a joke so perfect. It's a one-liner that's just but I don't want to say it because I think she still uses it in her act. But her name is Casey Larwood, and I have told her it's my favorite joke. It's just, in my opinion, it is a perfect one-liner. So shout out to Casey Larwood for that. But I can't think of any one. I can't think of any one joke. I will say one of my favorites, like bits of all time, is the John Mulaney, the bookbinder, the guy who came and spoke to his classmates when he was in grade school about um, safe, being safe. And he said, you have a money clip and you throw the fake money clip and you run the other way. That whole bit is so fun. So I guess that's not exactly what you asked for, but that's what you got.
Indeed. And what experience would you like your audience to take with them after a set is over?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I want them to feel like they just had the most fun they've had in a really long time. I want them to walk out wanting to come back.
Indeed, most definitely. And for the last segment of the show is you get to pick the feature guests of my show.
Ooh.
Yep. So that's how everyone gets invited to the Speakeasy. So the first one is which open micer in Chicago would you recommend for the show?
Which open micer?
Yep.
Gosh, it's been a long time since we have a open mics in Chicago. I used to run an open mic for a couple years. Let me see. Who would be a good open micer? I would say Mary Kate Beck. She's super fun. I did her podcast, and she'd be a great guest. Yeah, she's fabulous.
Awesome. And your favorite host besides yourself?
Amy Sumter or Kelsey Huff. One of those two would be. Yeah.
Indeed. And your favorite feature comedian?
These are impossible questions. I think that Seth Davis, who is also, by the way, he would be on my list of like great comedians here in Chicago. Seth is hilarious, so he's amazing. But he could headline too. Features. There are just so many. Like I mentioned earlier, Manny Acosta is so funny. Tyler Fowler. Yeah, I would say those two.
Indeed. And your favorite headliner?
Okay, again, impossible. I would say Patty Vasquez, Vince Carone, Adam Burke, Kelly Howard.
Indeed, most definitely. I'll have to reach out to those folks and all that good stuff. So you'll have to probably help me out with the spelling because sometimes I spell names wrong and I message the wrong people and it's like, oh, all hell breaks loose. So
It's okay, I forget names.
indeed, most definitely. It's rough for all of us, and I'm that way too sometimes. But I'll make sure to timestamp it and then we'll go over it together. How about that on the video? Fantastic. And Colleen, we're raising funds for her favorite charities that are on beneath this video, which are RAICES, as well as Lakeview Pantry in Chicago, and Equal Justice Initiative. So please be sure to click on those links and donate to those fine folks. And follow Colleen on Instagram and visit her website and subscribe to her YouTube channel. All that's located on the description box below too. And so with that being said, Colleen, are there any final words you'd like to give to the audience this evening?
No, just when we all come back to theaters and clubs and bars and laugh together, look us up. Backroom Comedy, Momedians Momedy, Waves of Laughter is a show I do once a year for charity. So yeah, I hope to, hey, and introduce yourself to me. Like, come up, say hi, say, hey, I saw you in Sareth and it was great. And yeah.
Awesome. When I go up there next year, I'll be sure to introduce myself, and hopefully everything's out of the in the clear of COVID and all that good stuff. So,
absolutely,
and all that good stuff. And Colleen, I'm so honored to have you as my guest on this pod
what?
on this. This has been fantastic and great to meet you, and I can't wait to meet you in person too.
Good to meet you too. Thanks so much for the experience. It was fun.
Awesome, Colleen. Be safe, and I'll see you soon.